And with that, we are going to do a couple of quick introductions. So again, thank you for joining us. Here is a slide that helps to familiarize you with the Zoom controls if you are not familiar with Zoom. So we are asking everyone to keep their videos and microphones muted so that we can get a nice clean recording that we'll be able to archive up on our YouTube channel with University of Maryland Extension here in Garrett County. So if you want to click on the participants tab, that'll tell you who's in the meeting. If you want to click on the chat box, that's how we'll be asking you to interact today. And if you need a live transcript, just be sure to click on the CC button there as well. All right, and with that, I just want to welcome you. Thank you for taking some time this morning to join us. I am Ashley Bodkins, and I'm with the University of Maryland Extension Office here in Garrett County. So here in the county, I work with home horticulture education in the Maryland Master Gardener program. And this is our website. I encourage you to check us out if you are not familiar with Extension and see what kind of services we can offer. And I just wanted to do a quick plug. We are for our next Brunch and Learn, which is going to be on June 22nd at 10 a.m. And it's going to be a watershed update from the Deep Creek Administrative Council. And I will drop that link into the chat if you are interested in signing up. Same setup as today. You do need to register in advance so that you can get the link. But again, it is free as always to attend. So we encourage everyone, if you're interested, to please check it out and sign up. And with University of Maryland Extension, we just want everyone to know that our programs are open to all and that we do not discriminate. So if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out about that. And with that, I would like to turn it over to David Meyerberg for a couple words about the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. The Deep Creek Watershed Foundation is funding a series of these sessions, and we are very pleased to have you involved. And we encourage you to talk to your friends and neighbors and get them involved as we go forward. This is an informative series. It is interactive, so you can ask questions as you go along. And please go to the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation website, which will give you a large amount of information about the foundation, as well as this entire series. The videos, you can have a family session and sit around and watch one of the videos or some of the other videos that we have and look at the different projects that we have. And help us out if you can. Today's session is on septic systems, and that is very, very important. Obviously, if the septic system goes bad, then the entire watershed can go bad. The next session on the Administrative Council, the Administrative Council came from the Deep Creek Watershed Management Plan, which was then accepted by the county as well as MDE and DNR in a memo of understanding. And one of the issues was that the Administrative Council would be assembled, and it was. And you'll find out more about this on June the 22nd. Please encourage people to watch. Thank you for joining today, and I hope you find it informative and ask questions if you need to. Thanks again.
All right, thank you, David. And just a quick announcement that the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation is doing an event on June the 20th at Sipside Lounge in downtown Oakland. So we want everyone to come out and join us for a fun night. There's going to be lots of good food and nice music. So if you are available on June 20th, come to Sipside and join us. And with that, I think that we are ready to turn it over to our guest speaker today. We have Craig Umble with the Maryland Department of Health. And Craig, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let you do that. Thank you for joining us, and I'll let him give an introduction about himself as well.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Craig Umble with the Health Department, as Ashley said, and I'm going to talk a little bit about septic systems in Garrett County and their function. I've been working with septics for about 30 years here in the county, and so I've seen just about everything imaginable, and repaired a lot of tough sites. And so I'll just jump right into it here. Ashley, if you would just hit me with the questions, and feel free to just ask questions as we go.
Okay,
And I'll
one
open
quick
it up.
thing, Craig, we don't have your video on. I don't know if you want it on or not, but we're not seeing you.
Okay.
There you go. Okay, thank you. And we will start with, we'll get you questions whenever they start rolling it.
Okay. So just a little bit about the septic function, how it works. So all water in your house, and which is mainly referred to as effluent, goes from your house and discharges through one main pipe usually. And this water that contains all the waste products, food, sewage, anything else you flush, goes into a watertight container. And this is usually referred to as a septic tank. And the purpose of that septic tank is to hold the effluent long enough to settle all the solids, and then all your greases and other things that float to the top and form a scum layer. So over time, the function of your system, that's why we want you to pump your tank every at least 5 years. And usually when you get the tank pumped, the pumper will let you know how often you should have it pumped, whether it should be 3, whether you can hold it off to 7. And there's a lot of factors that give that determination. How many people use the house, how well you maintain it. Do you take your food products and stuff from your sink and empty them outside or into the trash? Those are things. And chemical use too. So the remaining liquid that exits from that tank goes into a drain field. And there's all kinds of drain fields, but primarily most drain fields work as just a conventional either gravel and pipe or what we call chamber. And it's just a leaching system. And if we've done our job right when we do the percolation test here at the health department, so that's prior to installing the system, the soil that we put that into will accept the waste and put it back into the groundwater treated. So I get a lot of calls from time to time, and people who want to do what they think is more of a greener system, such as maybe like a composting toilet or something like that. Well, in actuality, the septic system is that's as green as you can get. We're taking water from the ground, usually through a well, or if you're on a public system, you're taking that water, goes as waste into this tank, and then we're putting it right back into the ground and right back into the groundwater. So really, septic that's green. You know, you're taking used water, treating it, and putting it back into the ground and reusing it again. So this drain field, which is a shallow excavation, it goes into this porous surface into the soil, and that soil accepts and treats and disperses it right back into the groundwater. So primarily what we're trying to get rid of is that coliform bacteria. So coliform bacteria, and you may have heard that term before because it's the standard test for drinking water. So coliform bacteria are always in the soil, found on your hands all the time. You know, when we test for drinking water, the coliform test for drinking water, we're mainly looking for E. coli, but if we find coliform, what it indicates is that the water that is coming into through your house, through the well, or even through a public system, if there's coliform bacteria in it, that there's a chance that the E. coli is there because you're getting untreated water moving through the soil and into your groundwater. So when we test springs, and we've done a lot of spring testing along roadsides and things like that over the years, usually coliform bacteria is always present in that. And that's because in a spring system, that water naturally moves from a confined aquifer or deeper aquifer and comes to the surface. And as it comes back to the surface, that's where it's going to pick up the coliform bacteria. And because it's such a shallow source, anything that goes to the bathroom above your spring source or above that water that comes out, you have that chance to get that coliform bacteria. So that's why it's the standard test. I mean, human E. coli, or all warm-blooded animals have E. coli. So if we're getting E. coli, then that's the bacteria that's going to make you sick. So this is just a side shot of a septic tank, and all tanks in Garrett County are required to be 2-compartment, like this one tank shown. And it's 2-compartment because of the divider in the middle. And what that helps is to settle more of your sludge and scum and get a better treated effluent going outside to the system. So as you can see, the scum floats and the sludge sinks, and that's all your waste. Now, this is an anaerobic system. So we have lots of different types of systems we're installing, but this primarily works anaerobic. And it still has bacteria in there that break down all the waste and breaks down some of the scum and keeps it functioning throughout time. I always recommend, when I go out to older systems that don't have risers, as you can see, the risers that go to the surface to access the tank, to install risers. One of the biggest misconceptions is that this thing takes care of itself. In actuality, you have to maintain it to get it to work for an extended period of time. We expect those systems, if they're properly maintained, to last at least 30 to 40 years. If you get 50 years out of it, you're starting to be on borrowed time. So here's just some examples of some drain field systems. This is a standard trench system. And the main picture with the gravel, that's been done here since 1955. Nothing's changed in how we install that system. The system is usually, we want it no deeper than 2 feet. If you're over 2 feet, you're doing something wrong. The system has to be completely level and on contour. So what that does is forces the effluent to disperse on a long length or long axis of the ground and then move downward and laterally across the system. Now, most of the soils in Garrett County, I expect I need to have that long lateral run because I get a lot of sidewall movement, and we get as much treatment moving laterally or down slope as we do vertically, because we get a lot of clay soils, and this a lot of times we see this indicator called modeling, and that modeling shows up right between 36 and 40 inches, sometimes shallower. And what happens is when that water hits in that confining layer, it slows it up and tends to want to pond it. So I like sloping sites because it helps move it away. So the gravel and pipe in that 2-foot system, the gravel is about 1 foot deep. So you have 6 inches of gravel, a perforated pipe that runs the length of that trench, and then 4 inches around it and 2 inches on top. In the chamber system, in that plastic chamber, those come in 5 or 4 foot sections. And the majority of our installations today are chamber, only because the installers love it. I'm not a big fan of it. The chambers that I have shown in that picture, we see a lot of them crushed. They crush so easy. You cannot run anything heavy over them, a car, a vehicle. Even if you install them greater than 48 inches in depth, they're gonna crush. And they just can't handle the weight. And we've been switching this over time to have a better, try to get a better product. And it's difficult to get the manufacturers because the cost of material is going up. So they don't want to put more product to make it stronger into that plastic. So it's we have banned a couple products just because so many of them were getting crushed and we couldn't make them work. But underneath that chamber, it's completely slotted, but it works the same way as the gravel system. The sewage will fill up, it goes out the grooves and down through the bottom. We expect a lot of vertical permeability, and it functions the same as gravel and pipe. So Septic Evolution, we've been permitting systems since 1955. And it was basically the early 50s in this area that everybody had an outhouse. I mean, that was your means of disposal, all your other waste. And, you know, I've seen outhouses over streams. I've seen, I still see outhouses today. In fact, the picture of the one outhouse was taken not too long ago. So it's still used primarily, although we do not permit them and you cannot have one. That was your primary means of disposal. So in 1955, when we started permitting systems, we had a basic record, but until 1971, you could do your own percolation test, turn in your own results. It had no basis of treatment. The only function until 1986 was permeability. So you measure the permeability. If it drained out, we gave you what to install, issued you a permit, and away you went. And at the time, that was a big step from an outhouse. And but they soon realized, we need to look at what we're putting in the ground. Is the soil going to treat it? Are there indicators that say that the soil won't accept it, won't treat it? Do we have too much rock? And in those, and we can physically see in those areas that were developed pre-deep hole, we have problems. So some of these areas might have 50 to 100 houses, contain over 50% houses with coliform and E. coli in their wells. So that evolution and what we do with that percolation test up front is huge in determining, to make sure we're not going to contaminate everybody's groundwater. The other thing that occurred in 86 is that well separation went from 50 feet to 100 feet. So that helped some, but it was mainly that deep hole that allowed us to go, we need 4 foot of unsaturated soil that's not going to pond that sewage to treat the coliform and E. coli and reduce other things like BOD and anything else that gets out into the system, nitrates, phosphates. So everybody's probably aware of the Bay Restoration Fund. And the Bay Restoration Fund was initially put into place to upgrade all the treatment plants. And in fact, part of that money is being used to pick up a community. We're getting ready to upgrade Oakland's plant. It's been in the works for a couple years, and it will employ the best available technology for public sewage. But in that process, that funding that you pay in your taxes, that funding was used to upgrade all the plants. And of course, Garrett County, we're always the last usually to see that money. It always flows west. But that money that comes to us, we had a community that's being picked up with the bay restoration money. And it's going to take away about 50% of about 40 homes that have direct discharges still. So a lot of good work goes with that bay restoration money. So in our office, we apply for a grant annually, and this has happened since about the last 10 years. We apply for part of that bay restoration money, and we use it to install best available technology for private septics. So this best available technology is basically like a small package treatment plant. And there's several different technologies approved in the state of Maryland, but we primarily install just two, just because we don't have the vendors or the manufacturers that will support the other technology out here. So those technologies are the Norweco Singular TNT and the Orenco Advantex AXR T20. So the Norweco is usually a concrete tank, and it functions the same, and that's shown the best in that middle picture. It is a 3-compartment tank. The first tank settles your solids and any waste that we don't want to get over. The second chamber has an aeration component to it, and it basically pools air, it blows it into the system in this spinning rod that just forces the air out. So you get treatment. And then the purpose of that bay restoration fund was to reduce nitrates. Now, although it's not my prime concern when here in Garrett County for nitrates, because we do not see nitrates in groundwater up here. In 30 years, I think I've had 2 homes that have had nitrates, and both were on springs, and the springs were located below farm ground that was treated with fertilizer. So in no cases have I seen nitrates in the groundwater up here, which is awesome, because there's a lot of areas across the state that do. So in the Advantex, it works the same, but it does not have, it's a passive aeration. The aeration is drawn by a spray. So there's 2 pumps. One pump discharges your effluent to the drain field, and the other pump returns part of the effluent from the treatment tank back to a septic tank. So in the Advantex, we're going to settle the solids and then spray over that membrane filter. So those filters, those white filters, hang in there. There's like a hanging curtain rod, and those filters go down about halfway in the tank. So that tank stays half empty, and that media basically produces a media, and that's where you get that nitrate reduction happening. The big thing with these systems is what I found is it produces a very clean effluent, the very low BOD. Sometimes I can see a coin in the bottom of a pump chamber that the effluent is so clear. Not that it's drinkable, because it's loaded with bacteria. So we still need that soil to do its job. But when I take these systems and I put them over poor soils, I found that I can make a poor soil work better with a clean effluent because I'm not sending all that other stuff out there. I'm just sending clean water that I need to percolate and get rid of bacteria. So we have about 136 BAT systems installed in the county, and 87 of those are grant funded using the Bay Restoration funds. And of those, 52 are in the watershed. So when we're doing work at Deep Creek Lake. The reason the majority of those are Deep Creek Lake, because we require a lot more of them to go in many cases. So if you're not familiar with the watershed and the lake, there's a buy down component where homeowners were able to buy a portion of land between their property line, the original property line, and then a high water, not a high water mark, but a elevation mark above the lake. So everybody had that opportunity to buy that land, but a lot of times that land is 100 foot to the lake. So the homeowner owns that land, but they technically have to still go through the Department of Natural Resources to be able to use it. So for us to use it for septic system, we decided that, all that land should get best available technology. So we can only use it when the system is actively failing. I cannot use the buy down to increase the size of the house, to add bedrooms, to do anything. But when your system is failing, I'll come out and we take a look at that. And if it's not affected by hot water table of the lake or some other factor or drainage from above to the lake, then we'll install the best available technology along with all kinds of other types of drain fields. So
Greg, I have a couple questions. Do you want to answer them now or do you want to wait?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one says, with the chamber system, is there still a drain field or is the plastic pipe and trench considered the septic system itself?
So in the chamber, that is the septic, that's the drain field itself. It has no pipe. I mean, you use pipe to get to the chamber, and then a lot of times if there's multiple chambers, so we'll go back there. So you can see in the bottom picture where the gravel trench is. So the chamber will work the same. The chamber just replaces the gravel. And between those trenches, we create an earthen dam. So in a conventional trench, we want your upper trench to fill completely. That maximizes the use of the system. Now, it is known that a system, if we can set up, there's also things called like a distribution box. And we do not use distribution boxes in Garrett County because what we found over the years is it's a part of the system that has to be maintained. And I struggle to get people to pump their tanks, let alone maintain a distribution box. But in actuality, the best system and best functioning system is a system that I can take the effluent from the tank, put it into a distribution box or a pump to the drain field, and we can send all the effluent to all the drain field all at once. The more I can disperse it, the longer your system will work. So on a sloping site, we use what we call like dump and fill. So it's going to fill up the upper trench. And then once that trench is filled, it will flow down to the lower trench, the next trench down, or sometimes there may be 5 or 6 trenches, and each trench will take in the effluent. So in that chamber, there's just no pipe. You can see in the picture where it runs in the end, it's just an open void and there is nothing underneath. It's just laid right on the soil. The lips on the side are just to make it stronger when you backfill it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, the other question is there a way to know if you have a chamber system or a gravel and pipe?
If you can get we keep a record of all the septics installed in the county. So anybody that would need to find your tank or find the drain field location, some of the drawings are very accurate and some of them you're before 71 when you send in your own drawing, or you look at them and go, I'm not sure what's north, east, west, south. So but if you can figure out where the plumbing goes out of your house, usually, and of course it always runs downhill. That's what I've been able to figure out. But if I can figure out which direction it's going, I can usually get a basis of where the tank is and where that drain field's located. Even on those systems that were installed in the 60s and 70s, I can usually go out and look at the ground. Of course, grass always grows greener over the septic, and usually determine from just some general depressions in the ground, where the grass is greener, where I'm getting that nitrates to the surface, just how well the system's performing just by looking at it.
Wonderful, thank you. And if someone has to get a new septic tank, are they eligible to apply for the Bay Restoration Funds? You kind of hit on that, it's only for failing, but.
Yes, and you know, of course, I get a limited amount of funding. The systems are have become, just like everything else, very expensive. We get every year 100,000, but usually I apply for some additional funds. So I get about $150,000 a year, and that helps to install 5 systems. Now those systems, I will prioritize. So if I always say, go ahead and apply. I mean, even if I require it on, let's say you're on the lake and I have additional funds, you can apply for that funding. And if it's available, I will issue it based on how bad your failure is, how bad the soil is, how close you are to a water body that you could contaminate. So a lot of factors there. So I'll prioritize that out. And then all you need to do is you can get your own excavator. And of course, he has to be certified to install the BAT systems. And then we will work directly with them to get it in. Not all of them are pumps. The Norweco will work as a gravity system. So the only electrical component you have is that 15 amp blower that blows air into the second chamber.
Okay, great information. And we have another one. How can you tell for sure that an old septic system is not functioning well and needs replaced? Are you going to address that later?
Yeah. I get into a little bit of maintenance stuff at the end. So I'll
Okay.
just, that's coming up real quick. So, so our GIS is down. Not sure if, for those of you in Maryland, we had a malware attack at DHMH, and it's wiped us out, and we've been down without computers for 6 months. So I don't have any GIS. So my map isn't quite up to date. So if you go to count the 52 dots on there, they're not on there. But you can see the purpose of this map is to show where I'm installing the majority of those systems. So you can look at that and go that the northern part of the lake is mainly public sewer now. And my goal before I retire, I hope, is to get public sewage to this southern end of the lake. I think it should be a huge priority for the watershed, a huge priority for the county. The problem is the treatment plant is located all the way over there by the dam, which is, not sure if you can tell, but it's the sort of the westernmost portion of the lake there. So the only way to do that, to get sewage, is either a major upgrade on lines, which is expensive, or we build a new plant or send it to a different plant. So we've had discussions about sending it to the new Oakland plant. The problem is when we go after this funding, they don't build growth into it. So the money that they give us for plant upgrades are for existing infrastructure. They don't want to fund new infrastructure, which sort of, I don't understand that completely, but I guess it's just how the money what pot it's coming out of. So with that bay restoration money that we're getting and other money from rural economic development stuff, that's where we get that plant upgrade. So this is just a close-up of those, and you can see I have a lot in the Hazelhurst, Green Glade, Penn Point area. And if you were to have all the 52 dots on there, that area in Green Glade, Hazelhurst, Stock Thompson, those are where the majority of the systems have been going in lately. I think I'm putting about, of the funded ones, we're putting about 8 to 9 a year in that area right now. So almost everyone that does work out there, and it's primarily driven because the lots are just so small. They didn't, there was no repair area built into the what to do in the future. The repair that I'm doing is closer to the lake. The soils are poor, but what has happened since COVID, and it's a reason why we need to get sewer here, is because everyone you talk to, and I know it myself for 30 years of work, is the southern end of the lake was the quiet end, and development and rentals, although they existed, it wasn't near what we saw on the northern end. And we do a lot of work with those rentals in the transient vacation rental program. So all of them, we license all of them, and that growth rate of vacation rentals on the southern end is just in the last 2 years is just crazy. And there's no slowdown to it. And what I found is I can't, a lot of these homes, I'm not even allowing to turn over to a rental. We just physically, I look at the septic system and we see that rental as what they call a change of use. And because there's a potential, we know, let me give you an idea. So we have a community that has its own water system, not private wells. It serves about 40 homes. And in that private water system, only about a third of the homes are built out. And they started having water problems. And we're like, this makes no sense. The water's producing. And what we found, so your average home is about 225 gallons per day, average use. Those rental homes are using 800 gallons per day, which is crazy. And not only is that a major tax on the system, but it's mainly major tax on the water system. So those are some of the things that we've noticed with this growth of COVID going on. So what are the indicators and requirements for the installation of BAT? Okay. One, like I talked about, your sewage disposal system is failing and the drain field will be on the buy down. So that's one, but I also, again, install a lot of these systems where they're, again, maybe the soils are poor. I can't get long length of run on contour. There may be a high water table that I'm trying to overcome or something else. So we also, again, install them within 100 foot of the high water mark of the lake. We also install them on a new installation or an older lot with poor soil and where there's limited area above the buy down. So a lot of stuff I've already discussed there. So I'm just going back to that drain field component, and we'll discuss a little bit more about that. I think I've covered a lot. Mainly wanted on that upper left picture, you can see that distribution box. So that's a system that's going in. It's not complete, but basically that distribution box is just a small concrete box that gets placed on a gravel bed and then disperses the effluent evenly. And the reason we went away from that is because there's all those pipes come in at the same elevation. And if that box sinks a 1/4 inch on one corner, then you end up sending all the effluent on a sloping lot, and that line happens to be the lowest line, there's going to be problems. In that bottom left picture of the chamber, you can see where the pipe is coming in. So there's a lot of different access points in that chamber, and the installers like it, not because it's any cheaper or any better, faster install. If you're installing your own system, I always recommend gravel and pipe. It's more proven. I have systems in that I'm still digging up from 1950s and 60s. And sometimes I'll pull that gravel, and that gravel will be just as clean as the day it went in if you maintain that system properly. So not that what the chamber gives you is that 5 times the storage of gravel, because it's an open area. So although you can put a lot of effluent in there and store a lot more effluent, it's not as good as product in my belief. But all of them work by that crossover principle. All trenches in the county, except some of the early ones that we had chamber or the distribution box, but we've pretty much eliminated every distribution box. I'll find them and roots grow into them, fill them up. It's just, if you were to maintain it, it is the best system. So what we're doing in the future. So this is sort of some of the other technology that we have been using. And the reason that we're doing, so probably 30% of our systems are at grades, sand mounds, and some other types of technology. And the reason that we've started installing a lot more of this other technology is because the good ground is used up. When in the late 90s and early 2000s, if I said you're going to need a sand mound, homeowners, realtors, they ran away from that thing, even though it's a great technology, you get great treatment out of it. And the reason these systems are so good is because they evenly distribute all the effluent. So what happens is they're design systems, and in that piping network that's shown in the top of those systems, so the upper left is a at-grade mound where it's just gravel and pipe, and the upper middle one is a sand mound, and the upper right one is peat filtration. So we only have a few peat, and peat is the best technology I can stick out because it gives almost a 99% bacteria reduction. The problem is the peat's only good for about 8 years, and then you got to come up with this specialized peat, which is about $3,000 to replace. So that's the problem with peat, even though it's a fantastic technology. But in these at-grade mounds, the design system is we drill holes in that pipe. So when the pump kicks on, every line gets even distribution and it sprays out. So the system functions for a long time. I mean, I believe that if you maintained your tank and didn't let solids get out here, that you should be able to get 60 years or more out of these systems if you've maintained them and didn't push solids out to them. So that bottom right corner, we used a lot of that technology. That's a simple, so that's a Norweco, but what it's going there, what you're seeing there, what 1 line to 2 lines is a bull run valve. It's a very simple construction technique. It's 1 valve. It only requires a 1/4 turn, and I can send the effluent between 2 different drain fields. So it gives me a lot of options there when I'm fixing things. So let's talk about septic system maintenance. Any other questions before we go on?
You have a couple. So in the 2 slides back, it says, I don't see the chamber in this picture. Can you scroll down? But I I'm not sure.
Oh.
And then
The chamber's in the bottom. I'm not sure. Can you see my whole screen, Ashley?
I can, yes. Can you take your mouse and there you go, point to, oops.
Oh, okay. So this is the chamber here. This is that plastic chamber in these two bottom slides. This is the distribution box, and these are gravel and pipe systems. So you see you have gravel and pipe. We cover it with a biomaterial or filter fabric, and that keeps your dirt when we put back on it to infiltrate into the gravel and clog it up prematurely.
Perfect. And it says the next slide, it says, if you've advanced to your next slide, are those top 3 pictures what the system is when it's finished? Is that what it looks like when it's finished, these top?
So almost. So this is, they're almost finished. So there's several inspections involved with these systems. Of course, the Peat system on the upper right gets a lid, and basically you can't quite see it, but there's a distribution network inside of that. So usually a pump pumps it up into the peat, and then it distributes across, and then it works gravity from there. In the sand mound, what this will get, so right before they cover, we make them do a pressure test, and that pipe that sticks up is basically that distribution, how we measure the distribution. So we're looking for 1 foot to 2 foot of head in that pipe. And if the system's designed properly, a perfect head will give you perfect even distribution. And surprisingly, based on pump curve and design of the holes and how many holes, we can hit that every time. I've only had to work on a couple to make that change. In the gravel system, so what that mound will get, all that gets is that'll get gravel across that sand. It'll cover the distribution network. That'll give another layer of gravel. Then it'll get a layer of filter fabric that covers that entire, it won't cover the sand, but it'll cover the entire gravel bed. And then it'll get a dirt cover, 1 foot on the top, and then 6 inches out to the edge. So 1 foot here, 6 inches on the edge. On the at grades, this bottom left, that's an at grade, just 2 different designs. The reason being is this is shorter, so we wanted to get a better distribution, a little flatter area. And this was just a long length of contour. We get great infiltration on that long length of contour. So this works same as that trench, except we're putting it on the surface. Other than the pump, an at grade is the cheapest system, actually, the cheapest system that I can install right now. The reason being is it takes very little pipe, 2 inches, or 1.5 inches, and we're just drilling holes in it. So other than that pipe component, it is cheaper to install than chamber. And the guys can do it just as fast. The problem being is you have that design component. So you have to pay for a design and you have to pay for a pump. And a lot of people still don't want that, that mechanical part to the system that could potentially fail. But the same thing, this will get the bottom picture, this will get gravel from this edge all the way to that edge. And then it's only 10 inches of gravel, 10 inches of gravel across that surface area, and then cover the pipe. And then the whole thing will get filter fabric, and then we'll cover that with dirt. So that's how that system works.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, it says, are there any vendors you could recommend for consultation about a septic system? And maybe you want to cover that towards the end.
Well, if the only vendors, if you're looking at BAT, is the 2 that I talked about, Norweco, Singular TNT, and the Orenco Advantex AX20 RT. And really, for BAT technology, I don't recommend you go outside of this. So 1, these systems are regulated by me. Okay, so I track them all, and they have to have maintenance. So that's sort of the downfall side of these systems. I don't want to say downfall. I mean, if you're you want a great effluent and you want your system to last a long time, this is the way to go. So you get that an upfront cost, and the cost of that Norweco out from the vendor is about $5,600, and the Renko is a little bit more expensive. I think it's about $9,000. But that maintenance across the board is around $250 annually. So there is a maintenance component to it. We have about 4 maintenance providers. 2 of them are septic tank pumpers. The other 2 are just maintenance providers, and they come out, make sure that the system's spraying properly, make sure you don't need your tank pumped, make sure all the mechanical components are working, and keep the system working right.
Right. Thank you. And just one last question about the chamber. So where is this? It says, I thought the chamber was a tank-like structure. Is that not really?
No. So 98% of our septic tanks in the county are concrete. We do a few plastic tanks, but when people were referring to chambers, when we refer to chamber systems, it's always that plastic dome, that half plastic. It's basically, it's like the top half of a culvert pipe. So it looks like a culvert pipe, but there's nothing under it. It's just open underneath, just lays right on the ground. That sort of answer that question?
Yep, that's great. You want to go ahead and move on?
All right, so septic maintenance.
Request for you to type out the names of those systems, or do you just want people to contact you after the session?
Yeah, feel free to contact me. And I didn't drop my information in here, but you can call our office, garretthealth.org. My email is Craig, CRAIG Umbel, @maryland.gov. And then we also have just a environmental.health@maryland.gov inbox, and you can send questions there. If you need to get a copy of your septic permit, that would be the way to do it. You just email it and we scan it and send it right back to you. And if you have questions about your system, I always implore my office to get out and meet with homeowners. I think maintenance of systems is the biggest part of it, knowing about it. It amazes me still today, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'll go to sites or get a call almost weekly, and it says, they'll call about doing something to their house, and I'll be like, well, have you had your tank pumped? And it's like news to them. Like, no, I've never had it pumped because I've never had problems. Well, you're about to, it's just, as much education as I try to get out there on these systems, it's still a lot of people, they don't understand it. And they always sort of like out of sight, out of mind. If it's, if I don't have a problem, it's going to keep on working. Well, that's not usually the case. Usually by the time you realize a problem, it's too late. You can't turn back. You can't fix it after that. So we'll go right in here to the maintenance, because I talk a lot about that. And like I said, I recommend tanks be pumped every 3 to 5 years, and that's in the legislation, but it's not regulated. And what we're looking at is that if the solids in the bottom of the tank, that sludge layer, is within 12 inches of the bottom of the baffle, or the scum layer, your greases layer, is within 6 inches of the baffle. And the reason being is that baffle's up a little higher. And when you have your tank pumped, that baffle in your tank, so what happens is when that material, your solids come into the tank, there's a baffle there. It's either concrete, it could be just made out of pipe, but what that does is forces the liquid down, and that forces everything to separate, your solids to go to the bottom of the tank and your greases to go to the top. But what happens is, and you never realize you have a problem, but over time, if your scum layer gets below, those greases, they just start going out your the pipe to your drain field, out off the effluent pipe, the exit pipe, and those greases just start clogging up the soil. So I always recommend, and it's important because a lot of, if you go to sell your home, is maintenance on your system. Keep a record of the maintenance, because I see a lot of times lending institutions and other people, so they want to know, especially if you have an older system, you can show where you've had it pumped, show any work you've had done. And of course, if you add or do anything to your system, you have to let our office know. You just give us a call, we meet with you. And everybody thinks that, I really pride my office in being, we're not regulatory. We want to come out, we want to work with you. Usually I pitch ideas and give you multiple options. Here's what I think the best option is. Here's what I think the cheapest option is. This is what you're going to get your best bang for your money. So I never really push regulation. I pride our office in being education first and regulatory second when you don't want to listen. So, and we've gotten a lot. I mean, in 30 years, I think I've taken maybe one case to court, and I don't even know if it made it to court. So that, I think that's pretty good compared to other counties who live in court. Now, the other thing you can do is conserve water. The average household uses 70 gallons a day per person, and one toilet leaking. So just that one little toilet leaking can contribute up to 200 gallons into your system. The big thing with the systems is do not do more than 2 loads of laundry per day. What happens is when you do that load of laundry, especially if you don't have a high efficiency washer, is that load of water pushes pushes those solids and scum layer and pushes things out to your drain field, because it doesn't give it that whole time to treat. The more water you're sending there, the less time you give it to get that little bit of treatment time in your system. The last thing, your septic system is not a trash can. Don't flush anything down there. No disposable wipes, feminine products, condoms, chemicals, coffee grounds, cooking grease. Surprisingly, I have found all those in septic tanks and more. It's like when you're going fishing and sometimes you pull up a license plate, you're like, what? It's those things do not break down and basically just eat up your that area you have for sludge layer, especially cooking grease. People all the time send cooking grease down the drain to a septic. Man, you are just killing your tank. Take that stuff and let it harden and put it in your trash can, or take it out to compost. Always recommended.
Craig, there's one question about no chemicals. Your list says no chemicals. What does this include? Any recommended soaps, any no cleaners that we shouldn't be using?
Well, there isn't really any good chemicals for your septic. I mean, obviously some are harsher, bleaches. There are a ton of septic friendly chemicals out there, and you can usually look at them, but all of them are going to have a certain toll of they're going to wipe out that bacteria load. And I have been to houses where I know where certain people clean too much. I'll go into that house and they have that house that you could eat off the floor. And, you know why I'm there? To fix the septic system. And I'll say, you can't clean as much. And, they're like, they can't get that through their head. But that's what they do. They clean so much. They use, they're bleaching everything. They're dumping their wash water down into that septic system. Well, once you kill your bacteria load off, it takes a long time to recharge that bacteria load. And the bacteria work the same. They say the solution to pollution is dilution. They use that for years and years. And, even with the Yawk Lake, everybody thinks the Yawk Lake was built for flood control. Well, it was built for dilution of waste and to keep navigation waters open to Pittsburgh, and mainly for pollution control, because they were like, they needed water and they had to increase so they hold back all the water so they could have that pollution control downstream. Not necessarily, and they use it a little bit for flood control, but its main purpose is navigation and pollution control.
Interesting. Now, one other thing, can you discuss products for flushing monthly bacteria or enzyme treatments? Do you recommend those?
I do not. We do not recommend anything. Rid-X, we do not recommend any products. Use your system accordingly. Go to the bathroom in it. When you go to the bathroom, that's the best thing you can do to your system is feed it, give it that biological portion for those anaerobic bacteria to grow. So
wonderful. Thank you.
So some of the other things, obviously, you don't park over your drain field or move heavy equipment over it. They will crush. I've seen those gravel systems are sort of indestructible. I've seen driveways across them and they've worked for years. And unless you crush the pipe, they're pretty stable. Don't plant trees over your drain field. So when we install systems, I never make people remove their system, remove all the trees, because I don't want them to come back and plant trees. Older trees with root systems that are established, they less tendency to get in. But if you plant a tree over your drain field or in that area, it will seek out that drain field and the root system will fill it up. I've pulled the lids off tanks where people have planted either maples are bad, of course, willows, and the roots will have inundated the system. Literally, we have cut 25-foot sections out of pipe where they were completely full of roots because they planted a tree too close. Keep your roof drains, sump pumps, and other rainwater. So those are things to look at. If you have that wet area in the springtime towards the end of your system, look for things like that, where your roof drains, where rainwater runs. You can do basic, simple diversions for rainwater, your roof drains, to make them run below your drain field, and it's way cheaper than fixing your septic. So why maintain your septic system? Well, that's huge. Just the drain field portion, and I'm using numbers that I've been hearing from the guys, and this is with the inflation. You're talking that drain field portion, no tank, is around $6,000 to $8,000 now, or $25 per foot. So the standard system is around 250 foot. Gravel and pipers, but you're going to look at about $6,000 to $8,000 to replace that drain filled part. And it keeps you and your neighbors healthy and protects the environment. So there's a huge portion at epa.gov /septic there, that link. If you'd like more information, obviously you can come to our office, but you can also go to that link and it gives you a ton of information on septic maintenance. Of course, if you want a copy of your drain field and you're from Garrett County, email us or give us a call and we'll shoot it out to you. And like I said, if you have that wet spot or want us to take a look at it, and we'll meet you on site and go over your system and talk about what things you can do to make it work for a longer period of time. That's all I have.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. What a wonderful presentation. We really appreciate the information, and I tell you, I've learned so much. So thank
Yeah,
you so
I went a little bit
much.
longer here. You should have been like, speed it up, Ashley.
Oh, no, you're perfect. That's wonderful. People were very interested and had lots of questions. So that makes it nice too. So just to reiterate, you have septic records at your office back to 71. Is that what you said?
Back to 55.
Oh, back to 55. Okay. And they just need to get in touch with you if they want to get
We
that.
started keeping records in 55. Yep.
All right. Even
Like I said,
better.
from 55 to 71, they're not as good, but so the more we started doing the drawings in 71. So that helped when the health department started doing drawings. We just didn't have homeowners sending us what they said they put in.
Right. But it might give you a place to start if nothing else. Right. All right. Lots of great compliments in the chat, and thanks to you for presenting. If you could just enter in the chat a little bit more about the spelling of those BAT systems, could you do that for
Will
people?
do.
Other than that, I think we can probably stop the recording. And again, I just thank you so much for presenting today. And anybody who wants a copy of the presentation, we'll be sending out the link in the next few weeks so you can view it on our YouTube channel. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today. And any further questions, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we will hopefully see you on June 22nd for our session on the Deep Creek Administrative Council. All right, thanks so much.
There's those system names. And again, if anybody wants, if anybody has questions, feel free to email us. You know, my staff love to answer questions. Send out your septic. We send out probably 15 a day to realtors. So be nice if we could educate some homeowners.
Yes. And will you enter the other email address? I got yours in the chat, but I didn't get the other one. Again, lots of great thank yous in the chat. So thank you so much.